Dr. Tanya Hathaway, who is going to talk about the way in which the particular project has been undertaken and what the results of it have been. Tanya.
Okay, what I'm going to do now is actually to talk about a research project that sits within Jones Centre for the Child and Family. And the main aim of this project was actually to inform our reconceptualisation of our model of IT partnerships with obviously teacher learning at the centre of this. And indeed, when we started to do this, we actually realised it was more of a conceptualisation of the model, because what we wanted to do was to integrate research theory, but also the experiential knowledge that was derived from our partners in schools and in the university. And fundamentally at the heart of this was a pedagogy of partnership, so that what we're actually doing in the partnership, any of the practices we're enacting, the roles and responsibilities that are being enacted, are all leading to the enhancement of subject knowledge. And what counts for subject knowledge? Well, Joan has shown us that in the 21st century school, subject knowledge is actually something that is much wider than we may traditionally think of geography or history or maths. And at the heart of this pedagogy of partnership, we wanted to think about the relationships that occurred in here and how we can actually have a partnership where all relationships actually enhance and feed into teacher learning. The integrated methodology that we've used here uses a number of multiple investigative techniques in a qualitative dimension. And again, at the heart of this, we wanted to use the lived experiences and perspectives of all of those involved in the partnership. And one of the reasons for that is really the complexity of the partnership. Had we just used a series of questionnaires, then we would have been taking this positivist approach that Joan has talked about. But indeed, the phenomena experience, the phenomena of partnership is highly complex. And as I said, we wanted to integrate lived experiences and perspectives. So we were recognising experiential knowledge as a very valid source of knowledge to inform what we were doing. And that led into our research process, which fundamentally needed to reflect our key ideological perspectives about what we were doing, about partnership and collaboration, not just power flow that flows from the HEI to the school, but something that actually is developed in a process that is owned by all involved. And again, at the centre of this were the relationships between those people. And one of the key things there reflects what Bart was saying, fundamentally about making people flourish, helping people learn, and that meant everybody in the partnership. So to go back to our aim then, we recognise that teacher education needs to evolve to include preparation so that teachers can work with competence and confidence as new professionals. And whilst obviously we have sets of teaching standards and we have policy, we mean competence, we mean integrity, we mean energy, we mean honesty, we mean commitment to a profession, we mean a lot more that's holistic about our teachers. And fundamentally this leads into them being able to work in the integrated children's service and to improve the well-being of children and young people. Now, we've used what I didn't mention here is we've actually used a phenomenographic inquiry, and some of you may not be familiar with that. Whilst our initial research question here might not necessarily seem to focus on partnership, in phenomenography we look at what emerges, and that's what we wanted to see. So initially we investigated what do IT students, university teachers and our school-based tutors understand about subject knowledge and how subject knowledge is promoted. And as I said, what counts for subject knowledge these days might be something different. And whilst I've added some authors there, it was quite important that we didn't sort of contaminate our process. We didn't really look at those beforehand because we wanted to get what was the lived experience, what do people actually understand about subject knowledge. And so what we're going to do here is to offer some initial findings about the promotion of subject knowledge. So how do people in the partnership actually promote subject knowledge? I mean, what's their role in promoting subject knowledge? What's their responsibility? And the implications for a teacher learning there in the partnership. Okay. The data sources that we used here, for our phenomenographic inquiry, we've used 6 students, 6 academics, and 6 school-based tutors. And they were all undertook a semi-structured interview. Now, in phenomenography, we look at different ways in which people experience the world or experience a phenomena. And the phenomena here is subject knowledge. And what we find in phenomenography is that some people are able to discern the world in a more critical way. They can see complexity better, they can see critical features. And people vary in that. They may not discern all the elements, such that this leads to differences in how we interpret things and how we understand things around us. And this was it, in fact, came out of Martin and Saljo's work about learning, showing us that where 2 learners enter the same situation, they actually make different understandings because they're discerning what's there differently. And we wanted to gain the full range of perspectives about partnership because it was quite complex. So we took this sample, which we hoped would actually provide us quite a lot of variation. And then we took a second participatory phase where we had extended discussions between ourselves. We were all ex-school teachers, so we could inform our data, and also between specialists within this. And quite importantly, the specialists are comprised of those individuals that Joan was talking about in children's services. And then we went on to a focus group workshops. The data that came out of here are sort of conceptual understandings about the promotion of subject knowledge and partnership. We took into our participatory phase because we wanted to polarise our points of consensus about what was coming out as really being critical. What were people saying really worked, what was important, or what was being missed, or what did they not think was important. And again, we didn't want it to be a one-way relationship where we were imposing partnership on people in this model. We actually wanted it to be developed between us. Interview questions focused on, for the students, how they thought subject knowledge and the knowledge of teaching were developed in practice in the university elsewhere. What was the role of subject knowledge in teaching? And again, remember, we hadn't defined what subject knowledge was, and what depth they needed, and what competency. And as I said here, phenomenography identifies the qualitatively different ways in which we understand that phenomenon and experience it. And we express these as a series of outcome spaces. And the most sophisticated discernment, or ways of seeing that phenomena, lead us to a sort of what we call a complex, complete outcome space. And we have to make a judgment that that was the outcome space we would base our sort of partnership model on. So the outcome spaces that emerge, so these are based on these semi-structured interviews representing the meaning and variation in understanding of subject knowledge. In our first outcome space, so this is all our participants, subject knowledge was seen as being gained to what we called prior to teacher replication. So subject knowledge is an objective body of knowledge, geography, maths, and you get it from the university or you get it from your previous degree, and then it's replicated in practice. You're working with teachers, you're seeing them, observing them, relying on observation, taking their practice, and then mimicking it and replicating it. In the second outcome space, so again, getting more sophisticated, subject knowledge acquired during teacher formation, bounded by curriculum and policy. So people do have subject knowledge, but students were seeing this as, and mentors and academic tutors as, you can come in and you can actually graze for knowledge. You can get this from the internet. It's bounded by curriculum and policy. Again, objective body of knowledge. That's what you need to know. And the formation, particularly here, teachers being formed, being moulded in views of mentors. So the mentor is there's a bit more leeway here. It's not replication, but it's certainly being regulated and bounded by me. I'm observing your practice. I'm telling you, do this, repeat it, what's right, what's wrong, what I like, what I don't. So the students here, not as confident as you might be, reliant again on being told this is good, as opposed to being able to make feedbacks and judgments for themselves. And in our most sophisticated conception here, subject knowledge embodied in actual practice and created through teacher transformation. So subject knowledge identified as a relational, sort of a relational base. Known that, we need to know what's going on in the classroom. How do I vary my subject knowledge for what my students are like today? How can I vary that object, have different perspectives on it? And teacher transformation, not being forced to replicate, not being formed and moulded in a certain way, but actually being allowed to grow and change and take my own ideas and form my own practice. So we took these outcome spaces, and as Linda and I had both worked in epistemological studies before, it became clear to us that our outcome spaces and the way individuals saw subject knowledge was related to epistemological assumptions and orientations about knowledge. So at replication, we had professional knowledge being clearly seen as only gained in school, and subject knowledge is a body of knowledge, an objective entity that could be sort of gained through the university school. And academic knowledge disassociated from experiences in school. And this related to what we called our dualist epistemology. Observation, deriving things from authority, very clear, and academic knowledge was seen as very difficult, especially where it conflicted with what was going on in the classroom. In the formation stage, we still have a sort of a separation of knowledge, but we see that professional knowledge is again privileged, and subject knowledge was about having the basics. I could go and get my subject knowledge and top it up via the internet or elsewhere. Academic knowledge is there, but it's informative. And here, this multiplicity in views, you can do some things in my classroom, the mentor is saying, but I want them to sit within what I'm regulating. Reliance on observation, etc., and length of experience there seen as a way to gain experience. Transformation here, we see a synthesis or a recognition in, so this will be students, academics, mentors, etc. Seeing knowledge that is something much more synthesized and integrated. That subject knowledge and professional knowledge are not separate, that they're one, that one has to use your professional knowledge in the classroom to inform that relationship with the students and working out what's going on that day. And how am I going to teach that subject, and what do I need to teach, and how do I vary that sort of object of learning. Academic knowledge here for these people was integrated with this. Some describe it as an interwoven sort of underpinning, seen as informing reasoning and how we're thinking, and new ways of sort of seeing the classroom. And again, this is about transformation. This is about developing how you discern the classroom, how you discern difference and diversity. And subject knowledge is therefore relational and dynamic. It's got a temporal component, contextual, etc. It's emergent. And indeed, subject knowledge, as we see in higher education, has been shown to change with repeated teaching, your understanding of it. What we'd like to do now is we'd like to represent these outcome spaces with some extracts from the interviews from 13 different voices across students, university-based tutors and academics.